gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government.
The hardcore info you hear on this broadcast is now becoming pretty much mainstream because we've been proven right. And I just want to stress that again, that when you hear us talk about something, check it out for yourself. We're not just up here half-cocked. Occasionally we make mistakes, and when we do, we'll tell you. But we're not like mainstream media that's got an open agenda. Again, David earlier, last hour, was talking about mainstream news admits they're going to get publicly tens of billions a year to engage in lies, propaganda, and deception. Now, this has been going on for a long time. Now the gloves are off, ladies and gentlemen. I remember 5 years ago when Cass Sunstein, the regulations czar at the White House, said, hey, we are going to infiltrate the real media. We're going to shut it down. We're going to cause infighting. We're going to put out fake news. We are going to demoralize the American people. And I'm reading his Harvard dissertation paper, and by dissertation he was a professor there, but something he was pushing to the president. And I was reading his Chicago Business School papers from before that, and then what he currently did at the White House. This is stuff written months before he was sent to the White House to run these operations of how he was going to demoralize the American people. I mean, this is enemy, open enemy type stuff. This is what foreign enemies would do, but he represents a foreign globalist anti-liberty movement where these big megacorporations that are anti-free market want to get rid of our Bill of Rights and Constitution because it's a hindrance to these global corporate takeovers who, again, are monopoly men and are anti-free market. So I wanted to talk some about how they plan to take control and what we face as a society, because the propagandists are circling the wagons against us because we're starting to win, but the empire is going to strike back. So as bad as things are, the good news is Hillary Clinton admits they're losing the info war. A lot of other globalist publications, Zbigniew Brzezinski admitted that in his book that came out in January of this year. And they're telling their people, hey, you better get busy, you better take action. Nobody believes a word that we tell these folks. Well, guess what? There were, it had to be about 9 or 10 different members of the Army that were there today for this military memorial service, a burial of my great uncle. And guess what happened? I didn't even go over and talk to them as they were piling in the white vans to drive away at the end of it after they had interred my great uncle. But I saw several of them as they drove by wave and say, hi, Alex, appreciate what you're doing. So there's an example. I'm in East Texas burying a family member, and the guys are all basically looking out the windows and rolling down their windows and waving at me saying, hi, Alex, we appreciate what you're doing. I run into this half the time when I walk by somebody in the military, whether they be an officer, enlisted, whatever the case may be, non-commissioned officer, you name it. I run into this with the police. So that wasn't happening just 5 years ago.
Well, Alex,
so what's happening is, yep, go ahead.
You had a great interview this last Friday with the father of one of the SEAL Team 6 members, and he was talking, I'm sure the military was tuned into that.
Oh, yeah, and by the way, most of the families of those 22 dead heroes are going public saying the government blew up their helicopter and it was a setup. And remember, that happened 2 years ago, 2 years ago and a week ago, and I, day one, went on air and said it was probably a setup, and then about a month later talked to my Navy SEAL contact who's currently serving, and the story he told me then that is on record, on the radio archives and on the YouTube, is exactly now what the Navy SEAL families are saying, because it's what happened. Mm-hmm. See, so we don't just get up here and say we have sources. Take the fake terror alert, and that's where I was going next with people. Take the fake terror alert we covered the next hour. Thursday, I get sent that information by one of our sources in the Army. I'll just leave it at that. So then it was about 8 o'clock at night. We're in a restaurant before I went to meet you and the rest of the crew for the late night showing of Elysium when it premiered late Thursday night. You know, they have that loophole where they can premiere a movie early if it ends at least past 12:01. So we were going to like the 10:50 or whatever. I forget. The point is, I'm in a restaurant like 8:30 at night. I get this alert. I've seen these DOD ordnance disposal alerts before. I know it's real. I even know the phone numbers on it. Seen them before. But I still walk out in the parking lot, get in my car while the guys are eating dinner, call the number. They're upset that I have it. Check the number in Google, confirm, okay, yeah, it's right. It's the military number. Then I call my state police contact. And this is all in like 20 minutes while the guys are in there eating enchiladas at Chewy's. I then go, I call Kurt Nemo, our writer. I say, here's the story. He records what I have to say. He puts it all, double checks it, puts out the document that 6th Street and that Austin, Texas and 8th Street, is going to be bombed by Al-Qaeda sometime in the next few days. We're not saying that. The Pentagon is being told to tell police this. And so then we put it out. Friday morning, the media has to report on it, and the Pentagon comes out and says, actually, that was a false report. No, what it really was them lying and saying we're going to basically have martial law in downtown Austin the next few weeks, but it's only a drill, because it really is just a drill. Then they lie to the military and the police and say it's a real threat, so they'll go ahead and go along with being under unconstitutional federal control and drilling them to condition the public for martial law. And there were checkpoints in downtown and other areas. And, because the cops are thinking, okay, there's about to be a bombing. They even said what church was going to be bombed. I'm not going to say the name here on air, but the memo is up on Infowars.com. Now, the point is we broke that nationwide first. We broke that not only are they closing down embassies to fearmonger, and that's even come out in the New York Times, but now they're saying Austin and Pasadena, California, as sister cities, are going to be attacked specifically. We come out Thursday night, say, A, it's real, the memo is, but B, it's fake, it's not a real threat. Next morning, Pentagon comes out and tells KVUE News, KI, CNN, responding to us, giving us no credit, yes, that's a real memo, but we made a mistake. There's not a real threat. There you go. And then they'll argue, oh, no, Alex, there is a real threat, and they just happen to have drills when these happen because we're trying to stop it from taking place. That's actually true in a way. They'll put teams out there to confuse everybody when they actually have the patsy or the crazy group they're allowing to attack out there, so that they can then tell everybody else involved, well, now you've got to be complicit with the feds and be quiet because, the drill wasn't really a drill. We were trying to stop them, but now we can't tell the public. That's how they rope the cops into a false narrative. So it's a corruption of the police. It's a corruption of the intelligence flow. It's a smokescreen muddying of the waters. So criminal elements in the government, not the whole government, but criminal elements in the government can stage and provocateur or wind up crazies. They've been caught hundreds of times winding up crazies to go do a real attack so they can sell robots to every city, $5 million, $3 million a piece. So they can set up checkpoints, so they can federalize police, so they can take over our society.
Absolutely. If it's a false flag attack or if it's a real memo, I would think they want to get that out there so that if there is some real threat, they could shut it down. And we want to get it out there in case it's a false flag. We want to shut it down.
Absolutely. When we come back, I'll briefly hit Elysium, let you take some final calls.
All right.
We are on the march. The empire is on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight here in the studio. We have Alex Jones on the road. He had to attend a funeral out of town today, and he's joined us by phone. And we were just talking just before the break about what transpired this last week here in Austin. There's been a worldwide terror alert to get people afraid and turning to their government to allow them to just do whatever they wish to us. We had a real memo that was leaked here in Austin talking about a terror threat, and the government responded to it and said, well, that was a real memo, but the threat is not real. And basically saying that it wasn't really a threat. And Alex was just talking about that. Alex, was there anything else you wanted to say about that?
Absolutely, and then move on to Elysium. It's just this. I mean, we are catching them in these fake alerts, and my military source, my police source as well, basically said the same thing. They said even if there was a real threat of, say, a bombing that was going to kill 5 people, you've got a better chance of dying in their computer models on I-35 driving to Dallas and back, like I did today, basically, than I do by being killed by terrorists. So why is our entire way of life changing? I mean, in World War II, we lost hundreds of thousands of people. We didn't get rid of our liberties. Mm-hmm. In the Civil War, we lost 800,000 or something, 700,000. We didn't get rid of our liberties after that was over.
I guess what they should have showed...
ridiculous.
They should have showed us pictures of Adolf Hitler and said, okay, now we're going to suspend the Bill of Rights. We're going to take away the Constitution because Hitler's pretty scary.
Absolutely, folks. They have dumbed down the public. They've taken the Constitution, Bill of Rights out of schools, and they're replacing it with their anti-human agenda. And now I want to just segue into propaganda. Now, why do I do movie reviews? And why do I talk about things when a film has a $400 million budget like Elysium or $350 million? I've seen different numbers. It's because it's on record that most of these movies have an agenda and have a globalist agenda, and you can find out from them what the agenda is. Now, we had a story on drudgereport.com Friday because Matt Damon and also the director, the South African director, came out and said it's a conspiracy theory. This is not political. This is not for immigration reform and open borders. How dare anyone say that? Well, Kurt Nimmo found where a month before they had basically admitted all of this and that this was a social agenda. So it also shows their incredible disdain that not just Matt Damon and the director, but also Jodie Foster and others went on TV and made fun of people saying that there was a political agenda in this film. Well, let me tell you what the political agenda is. America is Elysium. That's the analogy. And if America won't take in the giant third world populations of the planet, then you're racist and bad. And I was sitting there with you and my other crew and friends, and my buddy Shane looks over and he says, how much do you want to bet when this starts that America is Elysium, basically, and that all the bad guys on the space station aren't just white, but they're blonde-haired, blue-eyed? Ladies and gentlemen, every bad guy in the movie is a white person. The only person on the space station that doesn't want to kill innocent people is Indian. And again, my issue is I'm sick of turning on MSNBC and being told white people are inherently bad. I'm sick of hearing the establishment do this, and it's absolutely improper and wrong. If somebody made a movie where all the black people were the bad guys and were doing horrible murders and things, I would stand against it, and I would say that it is incredibly disgusting, out of control propaganda. And that's just one layer of this film's propaganda. I did some reviews kind of haphazardly last Friday before I went home. I want to do a proper review of every level of this because it is so over the top that these people who have bodyguards put out these anti-gun movies, other ones, or these people that have, bodyguards and their kids go to the best armed guard private schools like Matt Damon, but then he's against you being able to have your kids go to a private school. It is so hypocritical. I'll guarantee you if there was some space station with life extension technology off-world, the public isn't going to be told about it in the future. And I'll guarantee you there's going to be rich Chinese, there's going to be rich Germans, there's going to be rich Americans, there's going to be rich Israelis, there's going to be rich Africans, there's going to be rich New World Order. How dare them imply that inequity has to do with white people when I'm sick of the West being bashed, all the things the West has developed, all the literature, all the art, the Magna Carta, the basic freedoms that became the model of the world. Just because the West has been overrun by globalists and is corrupt now doesn't mean I want to go live, say, in some places in Asia where you get off the plane over there, folks, they karate chop you. The police do when they want you to move along in a line. You can just be disappeared and executed. There's no other country I can go to where they just open up the red carpet like America does. America is the most open society, the American people, the most giving, the most charity, the most hardworking. I don't care what color you are. And I am sick and tired of Hollywood and the real elite trying to get black, white, Hispanic fighting with each other to distract from the offshore mega banks, the the 0.00000026 or whatever it is. It isn't the 1%. It's the tiny trillionaire class, the people that control trillions are worth hundreds of billions, that are leveraging the entire system against the general public, who are shutting down our power plants, who are paying with taxpayer money to ship General Motors to China. That's the New World Order. That's Agenda 21. That's the real threat. And I go see this film designed where every white person is the bad guy except for Matt Damon, because he sacrifices himself and he's really from Mexico and, has a, Hispanic last name, and where all the white people are the devil. I am sick of it. And the globalists want us at each other's throats, and it is thoroughly disgusting. I want you to have some final comments on this. I know the broadcast is almost over. It's just that I've protested the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, that's all online. People have seen that dozens of times. over the years because it's an outrageous group trying to make things about race. And the globalists want to dumb down the debate where everything is about race instead of about real discrimination.